established Rich coming right back at you. And today, we got to talk about Alicia Andrews being sentenced to 15 years in prison for her role in the Julio Foolio case. And this one is different because we already talked about the men who got convicted. We talked about Sean Gaithright. We talked about how lost them defendants was looking in the courtroom. But now we got to talk about the female side of the street life too. Because every story like this don't just have men with guns. Sometimes there's a woman that's close to the fire too, thinking she's just being loyal, thinking she's just riding with her man, until the law turns around and says, yeah, you was in it too. And that's where Alicia Andrews is right now. 15 years, not 15 days, not 15 months. 15 years in prison because the jury found her guilty of manslaughter after prosecutors say she helped track Julio Foolio before he was ambushed and killed during his birthday weekend in Tampa, Florida. And let me say this early so nobody misunderstands me. This ain't about dancing on a young woman's downfall, and it ain't about acting like she's the same as the people who pulled the trigger. But it is about telling the truth to young women who think being close to the street life makes them special, protected, loved, or important. Because sometimes being close to that life don't make you special. It makes you available for the consequences.
Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Now turn around. Put your hands behind your back. Is there anybody else inside?
Look at that moment right there. This is where the fantasy starts breaking down. Because a lot of people think the street life is excitement until them handcuffs come out and somebody is reading you your rights. And I want y'all young girls to really watch that footage with your heart open. Because there are women right now who are dating dangerous men and thinking love is going to separate them from the crime. And it won't. The law don't care how much you love him. The law don't care if he told you everything was cool. The law don't care if you were scared, naive, or just trying to keep your relationship together. Once somebody dies, everybody who helped the moment happen is in danger of being pulled into that courtroom. That's what this case shows. The defense tried to paint Alicia as a young woman who was controlled, manipulated, abused, and didn't understand what was really going on. And maybe there are pieces to that story that are true, because a lot of women do get pulled into bad situations because of the men they love. But the prosecution saw something different. They saw a woman using her car, her phone, and her movements in a way that helped track a man that ended up dead. And when that happens, the courtroom is not going to treat you like somebody's girlfriend anymore. The courtroom is going to treat you like a suspect.
Okay, to kill Julio. To kill Julio. We know that Zay was communicating with the gunman in that black Impala, and we know that the gunman in that black Impala were acting on this information that you and Zay were feeding him from the cruise to target Julio, down to the point where you knew exactly, the gunman knew exactly what seat he was seated in. You know who sees what seat Julio's seated in? The cruise. The silver cruise you're in when you're driving by it. Don't miss this opportunity to save your life.
You
don't have any explanation for why you were in the car at the scene of the murder.
For food, obviously.
You were looking for food in a hotel parking lot or
we turned around, honestly.
Okay. So you turned around in the parking lot.
The maps take you around. Like, what do you mean?
You don't find that, you don't think that, like, I know you're not experiencing how court, but you know, again, the jury judges, you don't think when they hear the story that you and Zay are in the silver car in the parking lot, feet away from where Julio gets gunned down. You have to understand how that looks. Just because you are pulling the trigger doesn't mean
that. But I'm saying.
You ever heard of an accomplice and showing accomplice? Here's the thing. Okay.
What are we talking? Well, I was going to say, like, everything I say, I see online, so.
Just because you are.
I'm not. If I'm telling y'all on the sideline, I'm saying hurt what?
The entire stalking, following, and assassination of Julio Foolio.
I'm stalking and all
Okay,
that.
following, tracking, doing surveillance. So, by chance, do you show up at the only two places Julio Foolio goes to in Tampa? The only two?
The other places everybody go.
You're in the parking lot in the car with Zay.
So I can't be in the parking lot now.
That's correct. You can't get in the parking lot with Julio trying to get gunned down.
What they gotta do with us though?
Okay, it's a game there. Yeah, it's a game.
It's not a game.
Oh boy. So you're too blind. No. You're way too blind to see that this shit is real. And this shit is real. And you only have one way out of this by being honest with you. If you're truly on the sideline,
Like I said,
then be honest.
I was
Do not be honest.
y'all asked me the same question like 10 times.
Because we know you're lying.
It's not
You know you're lying. I know you're
I'm
lying.
not lying.
No, let's stop debating that. I don't even want to debate that anymore because the evidence proves it. The evidence proves you're lying.
This is the part of this story that should scare people. Because when you in that interrogation room, all that loyalty starts feeling different. The man you was riding with ain't sitting next to you holding your hand. The people who were around you ain't in that room saving you. It's just you, them questions, them detectives, them cameras, and the realization that your whole future might be attached to something that you can't undo. And that's why I want women to stop confusing loyalty with self-destruction. Loyalty does not mean you follow a man into a crime. Loyalty don't mean you ignore red flags just because you don't want to seem disloyal. A lot of young women think being down for a street dude is romantic. They think it means they different from other women. Like they the one who understand him, the one who rides for him, the one who can handle his lifestyle. But when them charges come, it don't feel romantic no more. It feels like lawyers, court dates, jail cells, sleepless nights, and your family trying to figure out how you ended up in this position. And what makes this case so heavy is that Alicia didn't get a first-degree murder charge. She was acquitted of that. She was acquitted of conspiracy, but she was still found guilty of manslaughter. That tells you the jury didn't necessarily see her the same way they saw the men involved in the shooting. But they still saw enough to say she had responsibility in what happened. And that responsibility turned into 15 years. That's the warning. You don't have to be the person that pulled the trigger. You can still lose years of your life behind the trigger being pulled.
You are claiming to this jury that you're not in a relationship with him anymore. Is that true, ma'am?
I'm not. I said he may think that because I never broke up with him, but I'm
You
not.
think that he thinks that because you still talk to him even though he is locked in jail, right?
Yes, I do still talk to him, and that's because of my issue. I don't want to cause any safety issues in this jail. He sends me verbal messages and where I'm at, so, I just keep him at ease. There's nowhere for me to go.
What safety issues? He is locked up for first-degree murder charges and cannot get to you. Isn't that true, ma'am?
You do know his ways in a jail. You can send messages to people. People look at me sideways. Oh, that's your boyfriend? He said this. He told me to tell you this. It's safety issues. Literally before I came to trial, a deputy told me one of my co-defendants were trying to have me jumped. So I just do what I had to do.
You were also safely in jail. Isn't that true, ma'am?
I wouldn't say safely. You can get in a fight at any time.
Okay. There are all kinds of deputies. Is that correct?
Yes, all of them don't do their job also, so.
And we're not talking about your safety from other people. We're specifically talking about your safety from Isaiah Chance, someone you claim to be so afraid of that you will go along and do anything for him, right?
I wouldn't do anything for him, but
You wouldn't go along with a murder plot for him?
no, he never told me anything about a murder plot.
And you wouldn't try to call him multiple times incorrectly from the jail, right?
What do you mean, incorrectly?
You're not allowed to phone another inmate, can you?
I don't call him like that, so what do you mean?
You're right, you don't call him like that. You have to break policy of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office and do some kind of three-way call involving Isaiah Chance's mother. Isn't that true?
Yeah, we do that.
You do it all the time, right?
Yes, when he asks for me, I do it.
As for you, you have to initiate your own phone call. He can't call you in the jail either, can he?
I said when he asks for me, I do it. If he tells me to call, I'm gonna call.
It's not just that he answers for you. You can't call him directly. Isn't that true, ma'am?
No, I can't.
You have to coordinate and you have to make arrangements with some third party who is not in jail so that you can talk to him. Isn't that true?
Yes, and like I said, it goes back to me keeping him happy. I don't want to cause any issues while I'm sitting here. If he gets mad, if I don't call him, it's no telling what he's going to say. I'm the odd one out of this. They can all turn around and say, oh, it was Alicia, and I'm not getting in the middle of that. So I keep him happy while I'm here.
Now, watching somebody take the stand in a case like this is always heavy, because now you're trying to explain who they were in a moment that changed multiple lives forever. And that's hard, because once somebody is dead, explanations don't land the same way. She can say she didn't know. She can say she thought it was a trip. She can say she was controlled. She can say she was naive. But the problem is, Julio Foolio is still dead. His mother still has to live with that. And the court still has to decide what her actions meant, not just what she understood. That's the part people miss. Life don't judge you by what you claim you knew. Sometimes life judges you by what your actions help make possible. And that's why this is such an important message for women. Because a lot of women don't think they're in the streets just because they dating somebody who is. They think that's his life, not mine. But if you driving the car, using the phone, showing up at locations, helping him move, or even just being present when bad decisions are made, you might be closer to the crime than you think you are. And when the law starts connecting the dots, it's not going to say, well, she was just his girlfriend. It's going to say, what did she do? And in this case, the jury decided she did enough to catch a manslaughter charge. That is a life-changing sentence.
We, the jury, find as follows as to count 1, the defendant is guilty of manslaughter, a lesser included offense. We, the jury, find as follows as to count 2, the defendant is not guilty. So say we all, dated this 31st day of October 2025, signed foreperson of the jury.
All right, thank you very much. Have a seat.
That verdict was the moment everything got real. Because until the verdict comes, there's still always a little piece of hope. Maybe they believe me. Maybe they don't see it that way. Maybe I go home. Maybe I get another chance. Then the jury speaks and all that hope falls through the floor. And I know people have been talking about her smiling in court, or how she looked, or what facial expressions she was making. I'm not going to build no whole story off that. She's a young girl. Sometimes young people don't know how to act when their whole life is collapsing. Sometimes people smile when they're nervous. Sometimes people look detached because they don't have the maturity to process what's happening to them. Just because she smiled don't mean she don't know this ain't serious. The sentence tells her that. And that's why this needs to be said without turning her into a meme. This is not about making fun of Alicia Andrews. This is about warning the next Alicia before she gets her ass in that car, before she answers that phone, before she follows the man she knows is dangerous into a situation she can't talk her way out of. Because sometimes the man who tells you he loves you will still let you stand next to a crime that ruins your life.
No sentence will ever bring Charles right to me, but accountability matters. Alicia family can see her. They can talk to her. She can see her child, but I can't see my child. I have to go to visit him in a wall at the cemetery. I asked this court to remember that behind every headline is a real family suffering permanent damage. My son's life mattered. He was not disposable. The emotional devastation caused by this murder reaches far beyond the courtroom and will affect my life forever. I respectfully ask the court to impose a sentence that reflects the seriousness of the role Alicia Andrews played in the events that led to my son's death, because she knowingly knew what was going on. Choices were made, and those choices had deadly consequences.
Now that right there is the part that brings this whole story back the way it belongs. The victim. Because sometimes when we talk about trials, we get caught up in the defendants, the lawyers, the verdicts, the sentencing, the drama, the clips. But at the center of this whole case is a mother who lost a son. Sandra May stood in that courtroom and said her son was hunted down like a deer in the woods. That is a painful image. This is a mother trying to make the court feel the horror of what happened to her child. And I don't care what people thought about Julio Foolio's music. None of this means he deserved to be stalked, tracked, ambushed, and killed during his birthday weekend. And that's why the female side of this story is so important. Because women have to understand that being attached to a man's war can make you accountable for damage you didn't even have the power or courage to control. You can be the girlfriend, you can be the passenger, you can be the one who thinks they just hanging out. But when a mother is in court describing her son being hunted, the judge is not going to look at this like a love story. The judge is going to look at the part you played in the hunt. And that's what brought Alicia to the sentencing.
The state is asking for the max on someone who's never been convicted of anything before in her life. This is her first offense. And for reasons that are cited in the motions, the replies, Ms. Andrews will be taking an appeal on the case, on the jury decision and the rulings that were made in the trial, right? And so she does intend to have a new trial if the appellate court grants it. So she's not testifying here today, and no one else, no witnesses are testifying here today for that reason. So we're asking the court not to take into account the fact that Ms. Andrews is not on the stand testifying, or that her parents are not on the stand testifying on her behalf. We're asking the court to depart below the guidelines to give her a credit time cert and followed by 5 years of probation.
Anything else on either side before I impose sentence?
No, Your Honor.
No, Judge.
All right, so the court, having obviously reviewed the trial transcripts, the court file, all the evidence in this case, the pre-sentence investigation report, the argument of counsel, it's the judgment sentence in order of this court to adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence her to 15 years in the Florida State Prison. You have 30 days to appeal the judgment and sentence. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed to represent you. You all let me know when you're ready on Casal, please. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
15 years. That's the sound of the street life collecting payment from somebody who thought they was just riding along. 15 years means holidays gone, birthdays gone, freedom gone, privacy gone, and your youth gone. And by the time she comes home, if she serves most of that time, the world will not be the same as she left. That is a heavy consequence. And the defense can appeal. They have that right. But right now, the reality is 15 years. And that should be enough to make every young woman watching pay attention. Because this is what can happen when you attach your life to somebody else's violence. The men in this case got life without parole recommendations. Alicia got 15 years. Different roles, different charges, different sentences, but the same tragedy. Everybody loses. Julio Foolio lost his life. His mother lost her son. The men lost their freedom forever. Alicia lost 15 years. Multiple families lost peace. And all over a stupid-ass street war. And this is the message I want to send to the women. Don't let a man's chaos become your destiny. Because if he really loves you, he won't put you in the middle of something that could take your freedom. If he really loves you, he won't make you the lookout, the driver, the cover story, the phone holder, or the woman left crying in court after the verdict. That's not love. That's destruction wearing a relationship costume. And for the men watching this is your message. Stop dragging women into your shit. Stop using women to help you commit violence. Stop calling it loyalty when you really putting her in a position to go down with you. A real man don't need a woman to help him destroy his life. A real man protects his woman from the consequences of his bad decisions. And if you can't do that, you don't need a girlfriend. You need to grow up. And this Alicia Andrews story is not just a court story. It's a warning. And warnings are God's way of giving you a door before consequences build a wall. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.